on.
This meeting is being held in conformance with the Sunshine Law. Notice of time, date, and place has been furnished to the Berger Record and the Ridgewood News. Notice has also been posted on the bulletin board of the Administration Building. Clerk, please take the roll.
Mayor Giordano.
Here.
Mr. Brennick.
Here.
Ms. Saracola.
Here.
Mr. Martinello.
Here.
Mr. Raimondo.
Here.
Mr. Ritchie.
Here.
Mrs. Weber.
Here.
Everyone kindly stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us have a moment of silence for all our Waldeck veterans and all veterans across our country who have given the ultimate sacrifice to serve, and some whose lives were taken so that we could assemble the way we are and live in a free society. Clerk, do the prayer.
We thank you for everyone gathered here now. Thank you that you know each of us by name and have caused us to walk with you. We say that we are dependent on you and our trust is in you completely. As we surrender ourselves in adoration, we ask that you would come by your Holy Spirit and inspire our hearts today. Come fill our lives with your love, fill our conversations with your grace and truth, fill this meeting with your presence. We ask this for your glory and praise. Amen.
Amen. Good evening, everyone, and under my report, just a couple of items. I did attend the mayor's meeting, which I have some paperwork for Eric. When you come up, I will give it to you. Also, Sunday, I attended a Eagle Scout ceremony for two young men in our community. One young man was the one that put the bench outside. The other one followed in his sister's path and made a walking path, a continuation in HDA Park. Also, the Chamber of Commerce had two ribbon-cutting ceremonies. Two new businesses are in our town. Also, on Saturday, we did a dedication of a park bench in Borough Park right near the cupola. It's in honor of a 30-year-old resident that passed away suddenly a couple of days after Easter. And on Sunday, I will be also doing going to a young woman's house, 16-year-old resident who is wheelchair-bound, who will be celebrating her 16th birthday. The mother asked me if I could come over and wish her well. She doesn't know we're doing this, so it'll be a surprise for her, and hopefully her birthday will be a little bit more special. Also, don't forget Saturday, Ragamuffin Parade. Starts 10 o'clock at the Administration Building. I'm sorry, at the Public Safety Building, and it'll go all the way down to the train station. Chuck Wanamaker, thank you very much, as usual, for doing this with the conjunction with the borough. Plaques have been ordered, everything's set. I know you got the pumpkins, so it should be a good day. The weather's going to be perfect, so everything will be working out. That's all I have to report right now. Financial and Administrative Committee, Mr. Ritchie.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. It's nice to see such a large group here this evening. We had a Finance Subcommittee meeting this evening just before the council. We're preparing for next year's budget. In the event that the committee changes, for continuity purposes, we can hand over a framework for next year's budget. In the event that we stay the same, we'll have a head start. We already know that there's some statutory increases in our health insurance, and so we're planning for that on the operating budget. The operating budget, if you take a look at it, is razor thin. There's just no extra money in that at all. So we're looking to make cuts in things like our capital budget so that the down payment is reduced and we can absorb those increases in the statutory expenditures without putting the burden on such a large increases in taxes. So I think we have a framework that Steve, the borough administrator, can work from. We'll obviously get very into the weeds come January once we kind of reorganize, but certainly we're looking at some challenges this year, as always. At the last meeting, you saw us introduce some ordinances creating a new position that we're calling confidential assistant. This is after the resignation of our grants administrator a couple months ago. We thought that the roles and responsibilities of that probably were best suited splitting it up into different positions. So tonight we'll be adopting the ordinances that both create that position and fund the salary for that position, and then we will be appointing, after a vote, Tatiana to that role. I couldn't be more enthusiastic about her taking that. She's been with us for just a few years, but has been life-changing for the borough. So we're very excited about these new responsibilities that she'll be taking on. So pretty thin agenda aside from that. So that is my report, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Fire and Police Protection Committee, Mr. Brennick.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Mine's brief tonight. We had 16 calls so far this month for the fire department. The month of October is Fire Prevention Month. We had open house on the 10th. It was very well received. Had a good turnout from both members and residents alike. We have nominations for officers that'll be voted on in the November meeting, and I will give the results of that election next month. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Public Safety Committee, Ms. Ericola.
Thank you, Mayor. As far as the ambulance corps goes, notables for the month include the following. Walvac responded to the Route 17 hit and run with the Allendale Police Department and Upper Saddle River Police Department, transporting one patient to Hackensack Hospital. Walvac also worked hand in hand with the Waldeck Fire Department on the Route 17 Sheridan Ave rollover this past Monday night. Standbys are ongoing for the WHS football and Waldeck Junior football games. They also continue to look forward to the Ragamuffin Parade that the mayor mentioned this Saturday. Additionally, I attended the presentation of a generous check to the ambulance corps on Wednesday night from the Nicholas Negroni Mental Health Foundation, coordinated by former member, now New Jersey State Trooper, Jack Rosen. Walvac and the foundation are in talks to hold a mental health training in the future. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Recreation and Health Committee, Mr. Martinello.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A few items to report on tonight. Last weekend was our senior night for Waldeck Junior football program. The boys and girls had a great event to send them off into high school. We congratulate them for all their years of participating in the program and look forward to them moving on to the high school next year. Our baseball program held their annual Cooperstown Mum Sale at the American Legion. It was very successful. They thank all the residents for coming out to purchase mums and thank the American Legion again for hosting them. Our wrestling program has opened up registration. I'll be posted on our town website for a link for the form. We are accepting registrations for kindergarten through 8th grade for that program. Also, we had our health meeting last Thursday night. In there was a few updates. The audits of the immunization records for all the schools are completed. COVID hospitalizations and admissions continue to be low. There's a child care clinic every third Wednesday, which takes place at 22 Whites Lane, and there were 3 children seen in September with 10 immunizations given. During the water main break, the team visited 47 establishments to make sure the boil water rules were being followed. And in September, there were 11 retail inspections, 1 temporary food establishment inspection, and 3 complaints were followed up on. We also held flu clinics. There were 24 doses given in Tamron, and there were 6 additional doses done at the Waldwick Health Clinic. Also like to remind everyone on their website, we also have a lot of support groups and webinars on different groups. So in the month of October, we have pulmonary fibrosis on October 22nd. October 23rd, we have an agenda on fad diets and medical weight loss surgeries. On October 24th, there's an understanding hearing test. On October 29th, understanding the lowdown on dementia. And on October 30th, making a cardiac comeback. That's it for tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Public Works Committee, Mr. Raimondo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Spoke with Mike Latour, gave me a couple heads up. Now that leaves are coming down, please be sure that you don't put the leaves out too early in the street. Creates a problem for parking, as well as the situation that we're currently under is a fire watch in the state of New Jersey, and we want to be cognizant of it's extremely dry, and there's a very high potentiality to get a fire. So please be careful. No open flames or fires. You can use your grills, but that's about it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Buildings and Grounds Committee, Mrs. Weber.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's some ongoing work being done over at the tennis courts that should be finalized soon. That we're going to be putting some new trees in here at Borough Hall. We had 3 trees that didn't make it, and those will be changed out to some living trees. Over at Vets Park, there was some pruning and mulch that was done. And then the new playground at Lions Park, we have 2 submissions from the engineering firm on how it's going to look. So we'll be deciding on that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Our administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple things to note. We have a couple resolutions to close out our 2024 road paving program and our ADA curb ramp upgrades. Both those programs went well, and the work came out really nice. And I'd also just like to note that we are very excited to create the new confidential assistant position within administration, and are excited to get that new person started. So, thank you.
Thank you. Borough Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. Tatiana and I attended the Bergen County Municipal Clerks Mini Conference in Ramsey last week. The county election officials presented some last-minute details for us for November 5th. We also heard from the Bergen County Prosecutor's Office on how they will be assisting us on Election Day. Also, we had a really great session with Scott Steinem from Legalized Games and Chance Control Commission, and Lori Buckaloo provided us with updates on the new Oprah law that went into effect September 3rd. Just want to remind vote-by-mail voters, if you're having issues completing your vote-by-mail ballot, to go to our elections page of our website and click on the link for the video on how to complete your vote-by-mail ballot. The last day to apply for vote-by-mail ballots by mail is October 29th. However, at this point, voters must bring their applications to Hackensack, as there's no way to guarantee the post office will deliver it by October 29th to the county. Another option is to avoid the lines and consider early voting. It starts October 26th and runs through November 3rd, Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., and Sundays 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. The two closest early voting sites are the Wyckoff Library Shopmeyer Room at 200 Woodland Avenue in Wyckoff, and the Tice Senior Center, 411 Chestnut Ridge Road in Woodcliff Lake. Also, just a reminder to sign up for Constant Contact, which is our new platform for our weekly community news and updates, as well as our monthly newsletter. Nixle will continue to be used by the police department for emergency notifications, and our October monthly newsletter will go out on Friday. Thank you.
Thank you. Our attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. I spoke with our attorney that's handling the litigation for the PFAS, and there's been no movement from the claims administrator, so he can't give me any estimated date as to when we'll get our award letter on the 3M and DuPont settlement. He did tell me, though, that the Tyco and the BASF settlements are on for the court's agenda next Friday to approve. So what will happen is, if the court approves those settlements, which is expected, there hasn't been many objections to the settlements, then a new claim window will open up where we can submit additional claims under that settlement for additional monies. So he'll keep me apprised if that gets approved next Friday. And then we'll get that paperwork together to submit those claims. As many of you have probably read, the fourth round COA numbers were released on Friday. I won't bore everybody with how the calculations were done, but the main number is for Waldwick, we have to plan for 178 units in the borough by 2035. It's a 10-year window, 2025 to 2035. So we have to plan for 178. That's the number that DCA has assigned us. It takes into account some of the units we already have, but basically if you take 100 units, the standard set aside is 20%. We have to figure out 500 units and how we're going to plan for 500 units in the borough over the next 10 years. So that's what the state has come up with as to our obligation. And I have Steve and I are going to set up a call with the planner to start working on this. We have till the end of January to come up with a binding resolution as to how we're going to address this. So we're going to get to work right away to try and figure something out. So that's all, Mayor. Thank you.
Any information about the lawsuit that the different towns went after them on this?
Yeah, there's no information on right now. It's, it was filed. It'll take some time for it to work its way through the court system.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Consent resolutions and resolutions of the governing body.
Be it resolved that the following resolutions herewith listed by consent, having been considered by the governing body of the Borough of Waldwick, are hereby passed and approved. 2024-265, approval of consent. 2024-266, approval of minutes, regular meeting October 8th, 2024. Policy votes. A, Waldwick United Methodist Church requests permission to hold a dinner and a show on October 26th from 5 to 7 p.m. and requests waiver of permit fees for fire prevention and health certificate. B, Waldo Chamber of Commerce requests the assistance of the police, DPW, CERT, and fire department with the Chamber of Commerce 5K run and 1 mile walk on Sunday, May 4th, 2025. Waldo Chamber of Commerce requests permission to hold the 17th Annual Waldo Chamber of Commerce 5K run on Sunday, May 4th, 2025, from 7 a.m. to 11:30 a.m., and to display the Waldwick 5K run banner on the fence located at the end of East Prospect beginning April 1st. D, Waldwick Lions Club requests to use the Administration Building Council Chambers for the annual Children's Christmas Party on December 8th, 2024, from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m., with permission to set up on Saturday, December 7th, 2024, from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. E, the Chamber of Commerce requests to hang the Shop Small banner on Route 17 fence line beginning the first week of November through late December. 2024-267, change order number 2, final payment to D&L Paving Contractors for the 2024 road rehabilitation project in the amount of $505,032.73. 2024-268, change order number 1 and final payment to Marini Brothers Construction Company, Inc. for the 2024 road resurfacing program ADA curb ramp upgrades in the amount of $128,636.85. 2024-269, awarded non-fair and open professional service contract to DMR Architects for development of a community energy plan in the amount of $10,000. 2024-270, authorized membership into the Somerset County Cooperative Pricing System. 2024-271, authorized share service agreement with Northwest Bergen County Utility Authority for TV inspection services. And 2024-272, payment of vouchers.
Do we have a motion and a second to accept? Motion by Mark, second by Andy. Anyone have a question? A, B, C, D, and E, these are standard items that the mayor and council always do for the different organizations in our community. Mostly all this is fundraising that these organizations take care of. You got the United Methodist Church that they're doing a dinner show. You know, they raise money for themselves. The Chamber of Commerce is one that we do every year. Waldo Lions Club is part of our community, so, and the history of them is very strong here. So whatever they need from us, we always help them out. And Shop Smalls, we've been doing that for a while now, so that will stay on the fence like we always said we would do. Anyone else? Clerk, take the roll.
Mr. Brennick?
Yes.
Ms. Saracola?
Yes.
Mr. Martinello?
Yes.
Mr. Raimondo?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Weber?
Yes.
Okay. Public hearing. Would the clerk kindly read ordinance number 2024-30?
Ordinance number 2024-30, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2024-27, Chapter 90, Trees and Shrubs, Article 1, Section 90-8A, Tree Removal Permit, and Section 90-12C, Tree Removal Contractor Requirements, Notice and Deadlines of the Code of the Borough of Waldwick.
Anyone from the council would like to comment on this ordinance that was just read? You wanna-
Sure, just a note, we already adopted the tree ordinance. This is just making some minor edits to it that we realized after the fact and wanted to adjust just based on some feedback we received. It's really just, the original ordinance stated it was $50 per tree per application. We thought that was a bit much, so we actually are changing it to just $50 per tree application. You know, you could have as many trees as you want on one permit application. And then the other piece of that was actually reducing the amount of insurance required from the tree contractors and their registration.
Anyone else? I close the council's comments and open up to the public. Anybody from the public would like to comment on this ordinance that was just read?
Hi, Bianca Morosi, 135.
No address, just your name.
I just had a fast question about that ordinance. What if there was an emergency removal? Would the person be waived from having the permit?
Yeah, it would have to be case-by-case basis. If it was a true emergency.
So like for
yeah.
a hurricane or
Yeah,
anything
in
like
that
this,
case.
if it fell onto a wire and it had to be removed?
Yeah, in those cases, 100%, yeah.
So what would the process be?
Basically, have the tree removed, eliminate the hazard.
No, I mean in the sense of making sure that it's waived, that it's not going to be retroactive, that they had to pay a permit fee.
It'll probably be just like what we do when we have a
Considered
water heater.
hazard tree.
If it's on the weekend and you have to have somebody come in and do your water heater, you can't get a permit from the town because they're closed. So what we do is you come to us and you tell us that, you know, your tree came down on the weekend, you know, nobody was here and all that stuff, we would take that all into consideration.
Okay, And then I had another follow-up question to that. In terms of removal, at what point would you look at somebody asking for too many removals? Looking at soil erosion and something like that. I mean, I'm just wondering, you know, if somebody's looking to remove all the trees from their property, at what point is that just acceptable, or would that change?
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be added into that as well? It says that it has to then be replaced? Yes.
Correct, that's all part of the permit application.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Al Golden. Talking about trees, now, would that be for live trees or dead trees? Or all trees?
So,
Good.
yeah, so it's for all trees, but qualified trees would be live trees. Dead, dying, diseased, or hazardous would not, there would be no fee to remove those trees.
Because I just was riding up Wyckoff Avenue one day, and some guy must have taken down 30, 40, 50 trees behind his house. How does he get the okay for that?
That's the development.
So if that's the one that I think we're all thinking of, that was recently clear cut, that was actually, that work was done prior to the ordinance.
That was part of the
Yeah,
development.
but I brought this thing up about more than a year ago. Most towns have it, and I said, why don't we have it? Well, now we got it, but it's too late. Somebody just took down all them trees. That's a shame.
But the-
Al, that's part of it. That was part of a development application in a subdivision. They're building 2 houses behind that house on Wyckoff. So they subdivide, I believe they subdivided that into 3 lots. And there's 2 houses going on, is that Birch Lane, I think? it is?
Birch.
Yeah.
Well,
So that's why those trees were taken down, because there's 2 new houses going in there.
can we make them plant new trees once they're
the-
finished?
I have not seen the site plan application, but I presume the planning board, when they reviewed that, required a landscaping plan, and there's going to be
Yeah.
landscaping around those too.
See, when they come in front of the planning board, they have to have a plan for landscape, and they have to have a plan for lighting, make sure the lighting is not going to affect the residents in the area. And at that point, that's when the planning board approves the trees. 9 times out of 10, they put a lot of trees around to buffer themselves from the residents.
Which is good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I close the public's comments and ask for a motion and a second to pass this ordinance on second reading, and that the clerk be authorized to advertise it in local legal newspapers required by law. Motion? Andy, second, Michelle. Clerk, take the roll.
Mr. Burnick?
Yes.
Ms. Saracola?
Yes.
Mr. Marnello?
Yes.
Mr. Ramundo?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Weber?
Yes.
Would the clerk kindly read ordinance number 2024-31?
Ordinance number 2024-31, amending Chapter 2 entitled Borough Administrator of the Code of the Borough of Waldwick to create a new Section 2-7.1 entitled Confidential Assistant.
Anybody from the council would like to comment on this ordinance that was just read? Councilman Ritchie already talked about this. This is a position that we took into consideration when we lost our grant administrator. So this position, it'll fill his position and also do more other stuff for the community or also for our administrator. Anyone else? I close the council's comments. Anybody from the public would like to comment?
Eric Laporte, just one question on it. Why is the word confidential in that? I mean, she's a great person. Why do we have to put confidential? We all know her. I mean,
You can-
So it's more confidential for the responsibilities, not the actual
yeah, but
person.
she, whatever's done, it's, when we hear it here, no matter what.
It's also a civil service title. So there's only certain titles that we can use
So she's
to
good.
fulfill those, when the certain duties that they're going to do, we have to fit them into one of the titles under civil service. And so that was the
But
most
she'll be
applicable.
taking Mark's place, basically. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, I close the public's comments and ask for a motion and a second to pass this ordinance on second reading and that the clerk be authorized to advertise in local legal newspapers as required by law. Motion by Katie, second by Joe. Clerk, take the roll.
Mr. Burnick?
Yes.
Ms. Serocola?
Yes.
Mr. Martello?
Yes.
Mr. Raimondo?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Weber?
Yes.
Clerk, kindly read ordinance number 2024-32.
Ordinance number 2024-32, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2024-05, fixing the compensation, salaries, and wages of officials and employees of the Borough of Waldwick to add the title confidential assistant to the administrative/executive section.
Anybody from the council would like to comment on this ordinance that was just read? This is, once again, what Councilman Ritchie talked about. This is establishing the salary for the new position that we have set up. Anybody else from the council? If not, I close the council's comments and open to the public. Anybody from the public who would like to comment? If not, I close the public's comments and ask for a motion and a second to pass this on second reading, and that the clerk be authorized to advertise it in local legal newspapers as required by law. Motion by Mike, second by Michelle. Clerk, please take the roll.
Mr. Brennick?
Yes.
Ms. Serocola?
Yes.
Mr. Martello?
Yes.
Mr. Raimondo?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Weber?
Yes.
Okay,
I have a resolution.
yes.
I have Resolution 2024-273, appointment of Tatiana Marquis as confidential assistant.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have a motion and a second? Motion by Mike, second by Joe. Anyone have a question? I know everybody knows Tatiana. Everybody thinks she's doing a great job, which she is. She came to us about 3 years ago, and she has proven to be an asset not only to the office, but to all of us. Anytime we needed anything as a council, besides our administrator and Kelly, we would go to her, and Tatiana would make sure that we had everything we need. I personally deal with Tatiana on a daily basis. She gets a phone call every morning from me. I don't know if she's happy about it, but I keep up on everything that's going on in the town if I can't get here like I used to. So, Tatiana, we wish you well coming in a new position, and we know you're going to do great things for us. Clerk, take the roll.
Mr. Brennick?
Yes.
Ms. Serocola?
Yes.
Mr. Martello?
Yes.
Mr. Raimondo?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Weber?
Yes.
In- Now, she's going to be sitting up here, right? You put her up here? Come up here. Oh, yeah. Oh. I tried to get you a seat up here, they said no. Introduction of ordinances. Will the clerk kindly read ordinance number 2024-33?
Ordinance number 2024-33, ordinance of the Borough of Waldwick adopting the Harrison Avenue redevelopment plan pursuant to the local redevelopment and housing law NJSA 48:12A-1 et sec for property located at 37 to 49 Harrison Avenue and 13 West Prospect Street as identified as Block 107, lots 1, 3, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11.
A motion and a second is in order to move and pass this ordinance on first reading and that it be advertised in local legal newspapers as required by law, setting a public hearing 2 weeks from tonight's meeting at 7:30 p.m. or soon thereafter as the matter may be reached. Do I have a motion and a second? Motion by Katie, second by Mike. Anyone on the question?
Just describe what this ordinance is. So as everyone here who's been following us knows, we've been working very hard on redevelopment downtown. We've designated 2 areas downtown, areas in need of redevelopment, which just means that we put those areas out to study. We have our planning board kind of involved, and we essentially designate these as areas that we'd like to redevelop. The particular area in question, which is Franklin to Harrison between Prospect and Frederick, is the area where we hired a planner to basically put some ideas together and send them to us. This ordinance essentially takes that plan and says, we're gonna give it to the planning board to make comments, make changes, recommend changes to it. The council still has an opportunity to make changes, small changes, major changes, whatever we want to the plan. And then at a later date, we would adopt it. And that essentially puts guardrails on what can be done in that area when developers want to come in, make sure that we don't put massive 10-story buildings, high-density apartments. We essentially, I think we all want the same thing. We want to keep things, local, quiet, retail on the first floor as much as we can. Keep it nice down there. So this sends it to the planning board for their comments, and that's essentially what this ordinance is.
Anyone else? If not, clerk, take the roll.
Mr. Brennick?
Yes.
Ms. Serocola?
Yes.
Mr. Martello?
Yes.
Mr. Raimondo?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Weber?
Yes.
Okay, unfinished business. Anybody from the council have any unfinished business? Nope. Anybody from the council have any new business? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few items. I did also attend a Board of Education meeting last week, and just want to report that there was new test scores released for the town. A lot of increase from our students in the scores. I know last year was a hot topic. It was significant progress made in a lot of the scores. I encourage you all to go and check out the Board of Education website to review those results there. Also, as we're entering in the holiday season, and there will be a lot of events that the town is working on. Look forward to all the kids coming out this weekend or next weekend for Halloween and the Ragamuffin Parade. And as we move into the Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays, I'm sure there'll be a lot of other events that will be coming out. And also, I'd like to add my personal congratulations to Tatiana for her new position. I think she'll do great in the new role. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I want to report on the Environmental Committee. This week, they met on Thursday, and they basically came with a proposal for some work in town. I submitted to Steve, and we will initiate it to look and see if there's grants available to do the work. And we had our styrofoam collection this weekend, and it was quite successful. We also had the opportunity of Boy Scouts from Allendale looking for service hours, and they will be attending all the future styrofoam collections. We were able to fill the dumpster 3/4 of the way, so we avoided another 30 yards of styrofoam going into a landfill. So to date, we're probably up to 12,000 pounds of material that has been avoided from a landfill. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else? We are going into closed session after this meeting, but we do not have any action that will be taken. And no one else? Okay, public comment. Anybody from the public would like to comment? Please come to the microphone and state your name and just your name for the record.
Good evening, everyone. My name is John Brevoort. First, I want to congratulate Tatiana. Well done. I think that's great to hear. As many of you know, I'm a fairly regular attendee here at these council meetings for several years now. I've lived in Waldwick for the past 35 years. I hear a lot of recurring banter every election season about open transparency. And I'd like to take a moment to commend the mayor, the council, and the administrators on their open transparency. You see, during my long military deployment in the Middle East in this past year, I was able to get out of the scorching heat, retire to my hooch, where I was able to watch every meeting on YouTube. This allowed me to keep up with the latest and greatest happenings from my hometown. I was able to watch the proceedings in near real time, deep in the desert on the other side of the world. Since my return home in July, I've missed but a few, but I've always been able to get caught up using the YouTube feed. I don't think anybody can say that we're not open and transparent. I'm sorry that I missed the last meeting because I watched the feed later, and I discovered that I missed quite an interesting and spirited meeting. It appears that the upcoming election has brought some new visitors to the council meetings. Interestingly, I've not seen them here before. And more coincidentally, some of these visitors happen to be challenging the incumbent council members in the November election. It's nice to see new people at these meetings and hear all the different perspectives from our community. This is the heart of our democracy, and it's heartwarming to see. However, one observation: where have they been all this time? Will they continue to participate after the election, even if they're defeated? If past history is a guide, the defeated candidates seldom return. I'd like to address some of the comments made at the last meeting and give you my opinion as I see it. An active candidate for a seat on the Borough Council introduced herself and noted her, quote, deep disappointment with the council's support of S2103 and A971. This is a bill to prohibit affordable housing obligation exemptions from urban aid municipalities. She explained from her position as a social worker why she felt that this bill decreases our legal responsibility for more affordable housing. And she believes that we have an affordability crisis. She went on to say that we all know someone who can't afford to live in a place they want to live, or where their family lives due to the cost of housing. Quote, "It is up to outstanding communities such as ours to increase the amount of available affordable housing," unquote. It creates a stigma against affordable housing, and that we should see more of affordable housing as something that improves our community, not something that takes away from it. Well, I wasn't really familiar with this bill or even the council's vote, so I did some research. I went back and I looked it all up. The council voted to support a bill where the prior rules of the council on affordable housing excluded municipal or urban aid program municipalities. These are towns like Camden, Patterson, Newark, and others, from providing any contribution toward a region's affordable housing need. These exemptions, however, can lead to undue development burdens on the other municipalities in the region. Additionally, directing more affordable housing development to urban municipalities would help minimize urban sprawl and would direct development to areas that already have extensive infrastructure in place. This would allow more cost-effective accommodation of new development. These exemptions add to the affordable housing obligations that towns like ours must support to make up the shortfall. This has a direct impact on the taxes that you and I pay at the end of the day. To explain it simply, let's just say that the state mandates that 1 million affordable housing units must be created. Right now, municipalities like Patterson, Newark, and others are exempt. So that shortfall now has to be divvied up among the remaining municipalities, increasing their quota to make up for these units not covered by the exempt ones. This bill would remove that exemption and make the mandate equitable. I would argue that the added tax burden would amplify the affordable housing crisis in our community. I just don't get it. Our borough is not trying to abdicate or sidestep its affordable housing obligation. This bill simply makes the legislation equitable. All along, our borough attorney and the mayor and council have been proactive to stay ahead of the fair housing legislation and ensure that Waldwick is on track and compliant with all fair housing mandates. Our administrator maintains a dedicated webpage on the borough website just to affordable housing. My home is my most valuable asset. I've worked hard to pay for it, to keep it maintained, and to improve it. It's my primary family investment. My wife and I have raised 2 children there. I expect the value of my home to increase over time. I believe that our borough leadership has a solemn duty to maintain and support our property values. Not only to support a strong tax base, but to make Waldwick a sought-after place to be, a place where people want to move their families, a place with strong property values, great educational opportunities, and safe streets. So while I certainly appreciate the perspective of the prospective council candidate, I must respectfully agree that we disagree. I fully support the council's vote to support this bill, and I fully support the ongoing effort to stay ahead of any fair housing legislation in order to maintain full compliance to our current obligations. This council candidate was followed by a current borough employee and previous mayoral candidate. This gentleman is a regular attendee of these meetings, and we've all heard from him before. He started out his comments calmly asking about contributing to disaster relief for Helene and Milton victims. He then proceeded with a litany of random, disjointed complaints and highlighted that he wanted answers from elected officials, not appointees. He made a point to say, quote, "Just so you know, I'm not running for any office," unquote. As the complaints went from couches on Wyckoff Avenue to, quote, "Is the water at my home safe?" unquote, his tone became more manic and at times seemed to me to become almost unhinged, verbally sparring and attacking the mayor and council members. The volume and tone continued to rise as he described how the F and the I looks lousy on the fire department sign. Why aren't our elected officials doing anything about this? This display was not only disrespectful to all present, but was simply shameful and embarrassing. It should be noted that the elected and appointed officials present that day maintained their poise and dignity, answering each and every legitimate question in a respectful and dignified manner. It must have been tough to maintain your professional demeanor while listening to this sharp-tongued rant. And when he ended his tirade with the comment that he's, quote, "not trying to get anyone elected," unquote, I think the collective long sigh was palpable, even on YouTube. We all want what's best for Waldwick. I think it will certainly be interesting to see what happens in 14 days, not only for our nation, but in our little borough of Waldwick, a place that I'm proud to call my home. I encourage everyone to participate in the election, to go out and make your vote count. It's a responsibility that I have personally fought for you to have that right to do. It's an obligation that you have as a citizen of our great nation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. Mayor, may I please have
Just your name.
Joanne Mitchell.
Thank
Mayor,
you.
may we please have an update on what the next step is for our poor battered bus station on Route 17?
Our administrator already reached out to the county to talk to them about having that fixed and everything. It's the process that we have to go through to get it done. But you want to just...
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's been reported, and we're trying to expedite things and get it back and repaired, and analyze the location of it as well.
Is it there, Mr. Neal, is there something that should be done with the approach and that exit, given the trajectory of that vehicle? I speak not only as a resident in reasonable proximity to that bus station, but also as a member of the beautification committee who spent a lot of time beautifying that spot. We're all very grateful nobody was seriously injured, which was practically miraculous. But is there something that should be looked at in how that exit is constructed?
We looked at it a couple of years ago. I don't know if you remember, there was a car that went right through it. And at that point, we had a lot of residents who were very concerned about the safety of the people that were using it. So we spoke to Jersey Transit, we spoke to everyone, thinking we could take it off of the road. And what happened is they had diagrams of everything, and they said that we cannot take it off that road. It has to stay there because there's a path that the bus takes. And if you take that and put it somewhere else, then what's going to happen is everyone that's supposed to be at a certain time at that station or a different station would be late for work. But what they did tell us is that they were going to work on the turn.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it's the turn, I think it's the length of the highway. But what we could do is we could reach out to them again and see if they could do something on that in that area.
That would be wonderful, because if I'm counting correctly, this is the third time that
Absolutely.
bus station has been hit
Yep.
and demolished.
Yep.
Thank
Yep.
you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Council.
Bianca Morosi. Unfortunately, I wasn't here last week, but to Mr. Favort's point, I actually think it's great that there are so many people here.
Absolutely.
Especially because everyone doesn't want anybody complaining on social media, you know, and if you have something to say, you should be here, so I think it's a good thing, for sure.
Absolutely.
I had a question, actually. So it was brought up about the drought issue and the fire hazards, right, with the leaves. But then, so how does all the fire, like the flushing of the fire hydrants that we're doing, how does that affect it?
You can answer it.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really affect it much, I would say. We're not depleting our water system that, drastically. We always have backups with our storage tanks and everything too.
Okay.
That's always closely monitored. So we would never flush to the point where we're putting ourselves in jeopardy in any way for a fire emergency situation.
Okay.
I
And does that?
think also, Steve, that's required maintenance that we need to do to help with other water issues in the town. So we have to take that measure to continue to flush so that we can address
Yeah.
other problems.
No, I'm not saying not to flush, especially if it needs to be done, but I was just more curious on like how it affects, if the state is in the drought,
supply.
drought watch,
Right.
and we have to be doing this continuously, how does that affect that? Do we get fined as a town, or what happens at that point? I don't know, so I'm
I
just
don't-
curious.
We're not in a drought watch.
Well, okay, but if we're,
But we're in a,
Correct.
we haven't had rain in a while, for more of a
Yes.
fire.
All right.
So they don't,
that's better wording.
the loose ember, but they don't want loose
Yeah.
ember, so they don't even want anyone even using a charcoal barbecue at this point. Because, not so much because there isn't water to put the fire out, but that there's big fires all over the place.
Yeah.
So, no fire pits, and then with the wind adding to it.
Okay.
That's more of what the state was.
In our
issuing.
fire department, some of their trucks have water on it already. And what they do is they drill on Thursday night, so what they do is they're not drilling, they need to go near water to preserve it.
Okay, so
They're taking a proactive.
Okay, so continual flushing
Yeah,
is not?
absolutely.
Okay, thank you. And then actually I have a follow-up question to the flushing. Going back to social media, a lot of people that are having issues with water, with discoloration, they're saying that they're having the flushing and then it's not making a difference in the terms of the coloration of their water. And I was just kind of curious, like, how is that being monitored if the flushing is not helping the situation? Thankfully, I don't have this issue, but I feel
Some
for
do.
people who do, because nobody wants to have that
No.
situation.
Right, so we are monitoring it, we're actually tracking it too, trying to just narrow down, get to a resolution. We understand that the constant flushing is a disturbance, so we're trying to limit it as much as possible, but we are seeing good results, maybe not across the board, so we have been checking specific properties, constantly following up with those same properties, and we do various check-ins. I reached out to a few people this afternoon and this evening also just to see where they're at. So it does help. It might not help every single person's situation, but it is helping overall. That's why we've continued to hit it kind of heavy in certain areas. We are going to pull that back a little bit right now just to kind of,
Yeah.
limit that disturbance. But we are seeing success with it in other areas.
Is that going to be posted at all on the website, on the town website? And the reason why I ask that is because, if you can put it as like block such and such on this
Yeah.
street, I find that a lot of people don't recognize, or they don't realize that their neighbor's having the same issue that they're having, and maybe one is more vocal than the other. So if that's actually being tracked, online, so to speak,
Right.
on the ones that were reported and the flushing that took place, town residents are at least able to go up on there and see, okay, I'm in that radius, I'm having the same problem, let me report it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about it at a couple of meetings ago, a couple of residents, they came and they discussed stuff with us, and they never, ever came before, so we never knew that they had a problem. So we've been trying to tell people, come and talk to us, but what you said, Steve will look into that and
Yeah,
put it
I
out
think
there.
that would
Yeah,
be really helpful for
absolutely.
people, and maybe we can get to a resolution
Yep,
faster.
yep.
Okay, thank you.
And just thank you very much for saying what you said about everybody going online and talking. You get more satisfaction coming here and talking to us directly than getting it secondhand on pages, because, here's where everything starts, and here's where everything could be created. And to
I don't
do that.
disagree.
And I'm glad that you're an advocate for that, because I constantly say, don't go on. The only person that really tells you to come to a meeting is Eric Laporta. He's been promoting everybody to come and open their mouths and say what they have to say, because, you know, we don't see everything, you know, we are not perfect, none of us live in a perfect world, and if someone could come here and tell us things that have to be done, we have no problem doing it.
No, I agree. I mean, I think that ultimately, you know, you can only speak for yourself, but
Right.
you know, a council unfortunately is not always seemed as approachable. So maybe there is a better way that the council itself can kind of get out there to introduce themselves to residents on what they do, especially new residents.
I think we
that's
are
important.
approachable, where I'm at all the events, I do a lot of stuff, I'm here
Oh, no, I'm just saying in
every
general,
Friday,
but-
I'm here, residents come in, I talk to them when they're paying their bills, I talk to them when they come in for a question. So, I mean, you know, we are approachable, but some people might think we're not.
Can't speak
There's
for
always,
people, yeah.
that's right.
All
There's
right.
always room for a correction.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Eric, I know you're waiting.
I'm not going to give my name again.
I gave it. Okay,
Thanks for the
we had our
meeting.
meeting.
Right.
There was about 7 out of the 13 mayors there. And John DeNubio, who's the assistant there, that you know, he was very good. He answered a lot of questions. A lot of the questions had a lot to do with connections from the new towns coming, like Oakland's not in yet, they're going to be connecting. So a lot of that was discussed. But what I did was, because I didn't want to keep this meeting, you know, longer than it was, I spoke to John ahead of time, and I gave him your questions, and I have the answers for you. And he said, whatever you need to do, reach out to him. The answers are pretty good. The only thing we were a little concerned about, the mayors, and I'll be honest with you, and we're going to be talking about this at the next meeting, is every town has a representative down in Waldwick, down at the authority. Our representative left. For whatever reason, she left. So now there's an open space. So now I'm asking if I could give them names of people to be on the committee. We have no say in this. Everything has to go to the county executive, and he puts people up, which is not fair to us, because, you know, we should have the right, each town should have a right to put a person in. Some of the towns didn't even know they had a representative, which is kind of scary, but, I mean, we knew who our representative was. I met with her when she first came in, but, you know, due to reasons, you know, that she didn't, you know, she's not there no more. I did ask if I could submit 3 names to have somebody go there. He says, you know, you could try, but he has no control over it. It's the county executive and their commissioners.
Okay.
But he, you know, read what he wrote.
It did smell, I mean, it
I know.
smelled tonight.
I know.
Horrible.
He wrote a lot of stuff.
And
The
I
other
called-
mayors are very, very concerned about the odor.
I called
and
3
they're not-
times
yeah,
today.
White Co-
Well, the neighbors did
yeah.
too.
Ridgewood was there, he was concerned, and also Hohokus.
Yeah.
So we talked with him, we talked to him about it, we told him we would like to have a follow-up about everything. So, you know, this will help you with your questions.
When I called the police, the first time, they said they would call the DEP, environmental. Nobody came up all day, I was outside. And then about 4 o'clock, it's just, I mean, it came out really good. 3:45, and a representative came up at 5:30, and he says, I can't smell a thing.
Because of this-
and
this-
because
this-
I work here, you know, and it's,
I know.
and then the time, Saturday, another gentleman came up because I can't smell a thing. I don't know why they sent me. I'm going home sick. I can't smell a thing.
I know, the first
And
time.
the trucks are still coming in, by the way. Okay.
It's in here.
Okay.
Yeah, the first time I went down there, when I was on that committee, when I think Mayor Litchell put me on it, I went and spoke with Horowitz, Mr. Horowitz, when
Yeah.
he was there. And, you know, it smelled. And I says, don't you smell this? And he says, my nose is burnt, I don't smell it. I'm like, well, how do you
The time I
answer the
went down
public?
there, they wouldn't even answer questions. You know, they didn't have a public you know, you ask
They don't.
them- No.
They don't.
Right.
But they got the attention of the mayors.
Okay.
And the one mayor from Oakland is very adamant about getting to the bottom of all this stuff. Because
the
he's.
sludge
he-
is coming from all
yeah,
over New Jersey.
He's going to be
New York.
tying in, his
Okay.
town, half of his town's tying into them.
Okay.
So he's very concerned about what's going on. And he didn't know nothing about commissioners or nothing. So he got a lot of the mayors got an education, and they're very, very proactive with all this.
Okay.
Okay? You want to take it? And thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, Elise Didabel. How are you tonight?
Good, how are you?
Good. I know with the holidays and everything coming up, we have different events planned, tree lighting, menorah lighting, and all that. I think I've heard some feedback from local businesses that they would love to be able to participate in some of these events, if there was some way that you can think about. I know we have the shop small and
We
all
ask,
that
we
kind
ask
of
all of them to participate, and some do and some don't.
Okay.
Kelly and Tatiana, she, that's why she's got the raise she got. She would send all the letters out to all the businesses and telling them, could you help us? We even sent it out to our fire department, ambulance corps, police.
Okay.
And
I
they
didn't
all
know
get
that
letters.
they were
Yeah.
asked, and
Yeah, we have a
I just thought it would be a great opportunity for them
Right.
as
Yeah.
part of the
Yeah,
community.
we have a great relationship with our Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
And they do a lot for us. Matter of fact, we just hit them up for some money for the Christmas party.
Oh, that's good.
So we'll see what happens.
Second question goes back to the water.
Okay.
So the town, I should say the state is currently under a drought watch. The entire state is. That was put in place about 5 days ago. I know that we have our own water system, but with the lack of rain and everything, I'm sure that it would help if maybe it has come out in a memo in one of the weeklies, but maybe some ideas for people to just watch their water usage, watering the lawn, washing their car, those type of things. It's not mandatory, but just suggestions.
I know the fire department sent something out on their site. What we'll do is we'll have
Okay.
Patrick, we'll have Steve. Wow.
You have, what's his name?
The man to my right, to your left.
Okay,
We'll
thanks.
have him put something out on our site.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Anyone else? If not, do I have a motion to go into closed? Motion by Katie, second by Mike. I got the names right. All those in favor? All those opposed? I'm sorry. Maybe it's the shirt.